with the Fair News Digital Bargaining Bill, a framework for news companies to get tech companies to the negotiating table to start paying for local news content. The bill was first introduced by Labour, but will be amended to include a minister in the process who will decide which tech companies will be subject to the law.
So I'm not surprised, because they always talk about the market dictating. Well, the market is broke and the government has to support.
Tech giants like Facebook and Google could be forced to pay for news content.
Media Minister Paul Goldsmith is pushing ahead with the Fair Digital News Bargaining Bill in an effort to throw a lifeline to financially struggling media companies.
The primary point of the legislation is to act as a backstop in the hope that negotiations will happen, and it will only become relevant if there's an absence of that negotiation.
This bill ignores the realities of how our platforms work, their voluntary nature, the preferences of the people who use them, and the free value we provide news publishers. We will continue to be open and transparent with the government and publishers on our business decisions as this bill progresses. Sinead Boucher, publisher of Stuff, hopes the government will back New Zealand companies to get fair value from what she calls the biggest disinformation engine in the world.
The biggest disinformation engines in New Zealand are without any doubt whatsoever the woke, left-bent, bribed and corrupt mainstream media, who are failing, left, right and centre, for obvious reasons. They are nothing more than third-rate dishonest propaganda merchants. The only way New Zealanders can confidently receive unbiased, fair and balanced news these days is to head off to independent journalists like the Platform and Chris Lynch media. The days of biased mainstream New Zealand media, such as TVNZ, RNZ, and Stuff are over. The best thing New Zealanders can do is help abolish mainstream New Zealand media. For a start, the boards of TVNZ and RNZ should be sacked.
It shows that they're willing to get into some kind of game of chicken with governments to see who's really in control and who can sort of exert the most influence.
The coalition has splintered on the issue, with ACT triggering its agree to disagree clause.
That was the last straw for ACT, which has invoked its agree to disagree clause. It's concerned ministerial involvement could undermine public trust in media.
It won't save media. It may make things worse.
This Fair Digital News Bargaining Bill, cooked up by Willie Jackson and Labour, has now been adopted by the government, except for ACT. We're saying we agree to disagree and we're not going to vote for it because most of Labour's policies were bad. That's not a reason to oppose everything. Everyone can have good ideas. But this Fair Digital News Bargaining Bill says that internet companies like, say, Google or Meta have to give money to media companies, say NZME or Staff, and we just think that it is wrong for so many reasons. The most important reason is it's not actually obvious who's getting the most benefit out of who. Are the internet companies ripping off the news companies, or are the news companies benefiting from putting their stories on Google and on Facebook and on Instagram and so on? The other problem is the politicisation and the trust in media. Our friends and colleagues are suggesting a law where the minister gets involved in who gets a deal and who doesn't. Now, we saw with the Public Interest Journalism Fund that getting politicians involved in funding news never ends well, because even if it's wrong, people lose trust in them. So we're proud to be standing up and opposing that, keeping the government, but making it better.